This is the Bartholomew Town Podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome into Rhode Island's podcast of record, B-Town. It's Bill Bartholomew here with you, as I'll be every Tuesday and Friday on Spotify, Apple, ripodcast.com, or wherever you're listening right now. And today, an issue that's near and dear to my heart and maybe yours as well, which is coastal access here in the Ocean State. We speak with Conrad Ferla, who's one of the leading voices, if you will, dare I say activists when it comes to this matter. And it's something that has been bubbling up for decades. I mean, you can probably even go back further than that, but certainly in recent times has become a major issue. The privatization, and in many cases, the illegal privatization or attempted privatization of coastal access and sectors of the beach. Now, here in Rhode Island, our Constitution provides for access for all residents to the shoreline, as well as the ability to collect as much seaweed as one needs. But most importantly here, it's just a basic question of people who are trying to, whether it's their own personal home, their own personal property, organizations, operationally, who are trying to intimidate or actually practically install barriers to coastal access. And there's so many different nuances to this conversation. In fact, it's something that we're going to continue to explore here on B-Town and hopefully on the TV show as well over on Rhode Island PBS every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. You can catch me there. But I think that the main issue here is that we're talking about a natural resource that, you know, we hear about the blue economy so much in Rhode Island. And one of the factors that goes into that blue economy, everything related to the ocean, is the natural resource itself, not only in a tourism capacity, but also in a quality of life capacity for all Rhode Islanders. There's a lot of equity questions surrounding this, as well as just plain old inside politics. So we get into it today. It's an important episode, an important conversation. And if you're not aware of this, it's something that I think you should put on your radar screen if you're a Rhode Islander, because to me, it's something near and dear to my heart as someone who grew up in Charlestown near the coast. And, it's just one of those issues that we need to come together, apolitical. This is not something to do with left, right, center, libertarian, whatever. This is about people challenging a false narrative that has led to obstacles being put in front of the majority of people to access a natural resource that they are entitled to. And it's something that I think collectively, as we get into in this episode, we may be able to overcome. But there's, again, a lot of nuances to this, and it's really important to understand the players and understand the processes that have been built to blockade people from accessing the ocean in a number of different cases here in Rhode Island. So that's coming up today on the pod. Remember, for daily digital content, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Bill Bartholomew. And you can join the Bartholomew Town Podcast Facebook group where you can interact with other Rhode Islanders on topics of the day. And of course, we do a ton on COVID-19. I'm at every press conference. So I was going to say with Governor Raimondo, but now with incoming Governor McKee. If it's happening in Rhode Island, chances are B-Town is on it in one way or another. Again, that's at Bill Bartholomew on Twitter and Instagram, and over in the Bartholomew Town Podcast Facebook group. Send me an email anytime, bill@ripodcast.com. That's bill@ripodcast.com. Okay, let's get into it. Today's conversation, coastal access here in the Ocean State, seems pretty basic, but it's not. All right, so coastal access here in Rhode Island, you think about the Rhode Island Constitution where everyone is guaranteed access to the shoreline and also to gather as much seaweed as they need from the ocean. Those are two provisions that are right there.
Yes.
And yet my whole life growing up in South County, going to, I'd go to Narragansett Town Beach and they'd have some kid that would stop you and say, oh, you got to pay $10 to walk onto the beach. Yep. And I always thought, man, this seems unconstitutional. And obviously without there being a right of access there, people start, hopping over the seawall and paddling in or coming in from narrow river. But that's one very specific example. But generally speaking, coastal access below the mean high tide marker, that's something that is not, it's certainly not publicized in a way that the average person realizes that they can go to a private beach club area and camp out below that mean high tide or swim there. Yep. Can you kind of walk us through your experience? Because obviously you've been in the thick of this for quite some time.
Yeah. So every Rhode Islander has a constitutional right to access the shore for education, recreation, fishing, and seaweed collection. All right. And it's pretty much, it's not officially the high tide line or the seaweed line, but it's pretty close. It's always going to be within 3 feet of it. Not only that, our Constitution says that you can gather seaweed up to 10 feet above the high tide line to bring your ox cart down the beach to pick up your seaweed. So somebody comes up to you and tells you it's a private beach, get off my sand, tell them no and stand your ground. There's nothing they can do. But there's other ways they block access. So if you have a right-of-way, right, or an access point, all right, and everybody's using it, the other way to block access is to lobby a town with whatever influence you have and try to have all the parking removed.
Yeah.
So, and if there's no parking near a right-of-way, what's the purpose of the right-of-way? There's a million different ways to block access. What we've found is regarding beaches and access, they only truly have control of the parking lots and getting onto the beach. So for Narragansett Town Beach, for example, that's the only beach that I know that charges to walk on the beach and to park. Okay?
Yeah.
Which I don't agree with, but this already went to court. And what it is you have to cross their property to get onto the beach. All right. And they've done everything they can to block any way you could possibly get on. There actually used to be a right-of-way behind the Dunes Club that disappeared many moons ago. And basically the town abandoned the road and sold it to the Dunes Club for $0 to block access there. Mm-hmm. I mean, if they could have the whole thing gated, they would. But you always have the constitutional right to paddle in and walk below the high tide line. So that beach is unique. There's no other beach that does that. The state beaches, you pay to park and then you walk on. If you can walk there, it's free. It's always been that way. There's our whole coast is shoreline, and legally you could walk from Connecticut all the way up and down all the way to Little Compton if you legally wanted to. And it should stay that way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there was this nonsense this past summer in Newport where on Ledge Road, where basically the cliff walk kind of ends over and off of Ocean Drive. Somebody put a sawhorse with their a homemade sign that said, local access only, so as to deter anyone from driving down there and parking and using that right away. And I couldn't believe it, so called City Hall, called this person, that person. Of course, it's all insiders who are driving their own narrative and trying to protect their false sense of private property and beachfront access there. Now, there's a big difference between someone's house or their mansion and that right of way and the
which was on if I remember correctly, was on a town road.
Yeah, so, Ledge Road is a town road, exactly.
Yeah, you can't do that. It's not private. It's just, it's funny, building a house next to the ocean is equivalent of building a house next to Killington and telling everybody you don't like skiers going there. Yeah. Does that make sense? Like, if you build a house on the ocean right next to a right-of-way and people start using it, whose fault is that? Yeah. Didn't you know? It's a public right-of-way. People are going to use it. The beaches are public in Rhode Island. It's in Rhode Island. This is how I see it. You always see these signs going up, people blocking, but in Rhode Island, there are literally 1 million Rhode Islanders trying to improve coastal access rights, and a handful of people trying to block it. It's democracy and power in numbers. We will win this. The majority of people want to use the shore. I mean, what is the ocean state without access to the ocean? Isn't ocean access the main driver of our economy? Why are we going to let a handful of people, mostly from out of state, who are looking at these properties as investments to dictate our local economy? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, just yesterday, we're taping here in on a Thursday, and just yesterday, Governor Raimondo had her committee hearings for her confirmation to become Commerce Secretary, and a number of times we heard about the blue economy, the blue New Deal, so to speak. Now, I get it that that's more based on commerce, but there's certainly a tourism element to that, and there's a psychological human nature element to that. If you're going to celebrate the state as driving the blue economy, in other words, the ocean economy, everything from fishing to wind turbines to whatever, you also have to have that piece that includes the recreational and spiritual element of accessing the shoreline for every Rhode Islander. If you don't, then it's a false narrative.
Right.
What's been your experience personally in terms of challenging this stuff? If you can kind of walk us through how you've dealt with, everything from police interaction to just the general public.
Well, the general public is for public access.
Yeah.
My biggest barriers, although we did win, we restored parking to 3 public rights of way in Narragansett. Mm-hmm. We're adding parking to a couple of rights of ways in South Kingstown. There's a group of people that I'm associated with who are actively working to fix the right of ways in Westerly. And what I found is the biggest barrier is kind of just local cronyism. It shouldn't be that hard to add parking to an area or, fix a right of way. But when you initially started doing this, I would get pushback from, real estate agents on town council, town solicitors. Sometimes I just think our government is so afraid to offend a handful of millionaires on the coast that they're afraid to do anything. But if you try hard enough, you push hard enough, you can get it. Because if you're going to run for office in Rhode Island and you're going to be against coastal access, you're not going to win. You're just not going to win. That's insane. If you live in Cranston or Warwick or Woonsocket or whatever, and all of a sudden you drive down to the beach and you can't get there, that's insane. It's not just people that live in South County. It's people who live all over the state. And it's happening all over the state. I was watching a CRMC meeting the other night.
Yeah.
And it's gotten down to where people are blocking access in Button Woods and Warwick. It's everywhere. Our coastline, we have a limited supply of coastline. All right. And due to COVID, you have this exodus of the cities, and everybody's coming to Rhode Island and they're buying up our coast. Yep. Which is fine. I get it. I wouldn't want to live in New York City or Boston during this pandemic. All right. But as they're coming, they're bringing some things that come with them, and they're attempting to privatize our shore. And that's not okay.
Yeah. What has your experience been with the Coastal Resource Management Council, and what sort of position are they taking on this matter?
So from what I can see, CRMC has taken up a new initiative to fix public rights of ways. I saw them. There was a lot of lateral signs going down the beach from the sand all the way down to the water, blocking shoreline access, which is completely illegal. You're not supposed to put a hard structure on the sand. The ocean comes up, rips them half down, and then you have spikes hanging out up and down the whole beach, and nobody ever cleans it up. So recently I've seen CRMC make sure those signs come down. It looks like they're trying to make some changes. I have some concerns that I think people should really take a look at on the appointed CRMC council.
Yeah.
They've already been controversial with the LNG project, some marinas. Basically, they're appointed. They're not elected. And half of them don't show up to any of the meetings, and they have control and say over big decisions on CRMC. And they're not scientists or environmentalists. You've got the dental hygienist's wife of Ray Montanaro, who's I believe is a state rep, who's under some heat for some other things. She hasn't been to a meeting in over a year. You've got another guy who collects money from the Weekapaug Inn and the Preserve, who actively lobby to privatize beaches on the CRMC Council. And you've got somebody who may or may not be a lobbyist for international marinas. So, does the public need to have a voice on there? Yeah, but they should be advisory only and not voting to basically destroy Rhode Island for private interests. That's completely insane.
Yeah.
So, that's to all the state reps out there. Wake up, take a look, and see what's actually happening.
Well, one thing that is certainly coming up now, and I think the more people are engaged in government and I like to think that it's about generally people over the last year paying more attention to the nuances of the state's government, and certainly the audience here on B-Town and whatever the inside, the people who care about the nuances. One thing that I hear about is turning the Coastal Resource Management Council, energy policy, all of these appointed boards into elected positions. Do you think if that were the case, you would see a different approach from these sorts of boards in terms of dealing with, let's face it, this is a haves versus have-nots, connected versus disconnected type of situation. Do you think that elections would change that?
I don't know. The problem isn't with CRMC. The problem is with that board. And I'm not opposed to appointed positions on there. I just think they shouldn't have a conflict of interest, and it should be like 2 years or 3 years. That's it.
Yeah, 6 years, right? Right now, is that the term?
I don't know, but you've got guys on there who've been on that since like the 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So, or I think it's the 90s. I'm sorry, that's a long time ago. From the 90s.
Go back to the Sunland era here in Rhode Island.
Yeah. I think it should. And if you don't show up to a certain amount of meetings, you got to get the boot. This is a public service. If you're not doing it, somebody else will.
Yeah. That's shocking.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Jesus. So I don't know if elections will work, because that means somebody has to campaign. But I just think that it should be advisory only and not, mandating policy. Yeah.
What do you get in terms of any interaction you've had with state representatives or senators? It seems like this is one of those issues that, and there are many of them, and particularly when it comes to conservation or environmental issues, that, you can find someone who identifies as a progressive and you can find someone who identifies as conservative, and there should be an alignment of viewpoints on an issue like this for different reasons, perhaps, but ultimately a similar viewpoint. What is your experience?
This is a rare bipartisan issue. I mean, truly bipartisan. Like, the libertarians want to have their gun rights to go shoot ducks on the shore. Sure. All right. And, maybe progressives want to go collect seaweed for their farm. Sure. Yeah. We all have a constitutional right to access the shore. So I don't find it to be a partisan issue. We're just starting to reach out to state reps now. There are some state reps out there who have, addressed the issue. There was a bill to decriminalize access along the shore. I think Blake Filippi, Carol McEntee, and Terry Cortvin, if I'm saying it correctly. I think there's one other state rep that was involved in that too. That kind of went nowhere, but it's February is bill month, so we're going to try to help draft something and send letters. So we're just starting. When I say a collective group, Saving Coastal Access Rhode Island, on Facebook. It's just a bunch of people across the state of Rhode Island who really want to make change, and everybody's volunteering a little bit of time to fix it. Whether it's taking a photo of an illegal sign that says private property on a public beach, or if reporting an incident. We have some places where you have some people sitting at the high tide line, and people come out and physically accost them, tell them to get off their beach.
Yep.
Report that, document everything. So it really is going to take the entire community to fix this, and it benefits everybody. And as I see everybody coming together to fix it.
Hey, do you want to reach tens of thousands of Rhode Islanders each month, and not just any Rhode Islanders who are plugged into politics, media, arts and culture, newsmakers, and all that is going on in the Ocean State? Well, we can help you do that through podcast, live stream, social media advertising, and much more. Send me an email, bill@ripodcast.com, or text me 401-524-6825. I mean, let's be honest as well. I mean, and I think you see this at Narragansett Town Beach. Don't get me wrong. I love Narragansett Town Beach as an infrastructure. It's a great place to go for a walk, whatever. It's a beautiful place. It's played a huge role in my life as a kid growing up in Rhode Island. And it's something that I've brought people when I was living in New York. Like, we got to go to Rhode Island. That's one of the destinations we'd go to. But when I go there, I can't help but think, boy, is this as classist, potentially drifting into racist, if not intentional racist, but the result thereof. And you've got a situation here where folks who want to have the mentality that they do have a private beach club, Dunes Club, a Squamicut Club, or whatever, but they are not in there. They're not there for whatever reason. But so as a result of that, they try to turn something that's public into a private beach club. That's outrageous.
Yeah, we're seeing that everywhere. And in fact, part of the problem is when you start to privatize a beach like this, it gives incentive to people selling houses. Because now, you make a beach residents only of some sort. First off, that's illegal if the beach has taken FEMA money or was subsidized by the Army Corps of Engineers, which Narragansett has. So if somebody really wants to go out there, push that issue, I would love that. All right. But what you start finding is what we're happening in Narragansett is a bit of price discrimination.
Yeah.
So, what they've determined is, well, the public can come, but if I raise the price to a point where you can't afford to go, well, that works. I can keep them out. All right. And they got that idea from Greenwich, Connecticut. Greenwich, Connecticut was illegally blocking access in a pure racist manner. And they had to go to the Supreme Court and they had to make it public. And their new way of doing it was make it, $60 to park for the day. And what you're seeing in Narragansett, although it is going to in front of a vote in town council in Narragansett, all right, I believe next week or the week after, they raised their prices $20 to park, and $15 per person to enter the beach. So it ended up being $80 for a family of 4 to go to the beach. That's discrimination.
No, that is economic pathetic.
And they don't even disagree. If you watched the beach park and rec committee discussion about it, the point of raising the prices was to make sure that less people went to the beach. They just said it. It was just blatantly to discriminate against the public.
Yeah, I got to get them
under the guise of COVID and safety.
Yeah.
What we found is COVID's been the excuse to steal land from the public up and down the coast. I got friends in South Carolina. This is happening. It's happening in New York, New Jersey. It's a problem under the guise of safety. Trust me, the safest thing you can do is actually go outside.
Yeah.
Not only that, for, the mental health of people. People are locked up for a year. All right. They don't go anywhere. And then they go try to use the beach and they're told they can't. People are at a breaking point. You shouldn't do that.
It's ridiculous. I got to get the Matt Mannix or whoever from Narragansett Town Council on here to explain.
He's gone.
He gone.
Thank God.
Who's there? I guess
you should ask Pat Murray or Jesse Pugh. They are from the old town council on the new town council, and they're making headways, to fix coastal access in Narragansett. They're really two good people. There's a new town council in Narragansett. They'll probably fix it. They're good people. If you're going to raise prices slightly because they have new costs, that a little bit is fine. Yeah. But straight up double your prices to discriminate is wrong.
No, that's ridiculous. It's totally unacceptable. What about this situation in Middletown? It seems similar. Middletown's decided that they're going to try to make their beaches for Middletown residents only. How could they possibly enforce that? I mean, I know a parking lot can be, you need a certain sticker, et cetera, but how at the end of the day is that? So they can't
legally stop you from walking on the beach, but what they've done is change the parking around.
Yeah.
All right. So if you ever notice that you go to any beach in Rhode Island, you have to pay to go to the parking lot, but then there's no parking signs for 5 miles away in every direction.
Yep.
That's on purpose. All right. So what they've done in Middletown is they have reduced some of the parking for non-residents, increased parking for residents, and made Third Beach residents only. And the only reason they didn't make Second Beach residents only is because they did accept FEMA money after Sandy.
Yeah,
they didn't for Third Beach. So I get it. They want more parking for residents, all right? And if it's a minor change, I get it. But what I see happening everywhere, every year you lose another inch. They raise it the price $1. They reduce the public access a little bit more every year, because when it's all at once, people get an uproar. But what's really happening is we've been losing our rights and ways of getting to our shore slowly for 30, 40 years. All right. And Sandy was a catalyst, all right, under emergency ordinances to lose even more access. And then with COVID, it was just push it through the roof, because yet this year you had more people going to the shore, trying to go to the shore because they want to get outside. And, now you're really seeing pushback and localism and tribalism is what it really is.
Yeah, that's exactly
and unfortunately, if you go down this path of tribalism, it doesn't work. So if Middletown residents say, hey, only Middletown residents can go to the beach, and Narragansett does that, and South Kingstown does that, now all of a sudden, nobody can go to any beach except the one that's in their town. And what do you think is going to happen when you go on vacation if the whole country starts doing this? All right. That's like somebody living next to Yellowstone saying, well, this is for locals only now. All right. This is the United States. We have a constitutional right to access the shore. This kind of tribalism of shoreline, it ends in something terrible that I don't want to live in. And, you have generations and generations of people who have benefited from that, the shore and access. Everything we're doing right now to try to fix this is for future generations, so they can have the same life that we all had growing up in this ocean state. And it'll be a shame if we lose that. We're not going to lose it because, like I said, it's 1 million people versus a few hundred who are trying to block the shore. Power in numbers, we will get this. So, that's how I feel on that situation.
Yeah, I can tell it's, and I certainly have followed you on social media and in general in the press.
It really happened in Connecticut and New York, and creeping its way to Rhode Island. Each state has a different constitution, but there are some, public right. I think it's a public shoreline doctrine. I might be misnaming that, but pretty much everybody has access to shore everywhere. But no, it does exist in other countries. In California, they in their constitution, you have shoreline access. They have the strongest. Same with Hawaii. Hawaii has great public access. But you see private interests everywhere you go who like to offer private exclusive beaches at a premium, and they're just looking to line their pockets. It's basically the fleecing of a natural resource. But in our particular area, you'll see a lot of it coming from the Greenwich, Connecticut area, and you'll see abuses of fire districts. Fire districts are a funny little anomaly in Rhode Island.
Yeah, especially in Westerly, we see that.
Yeah, yeah, in Bonnet, there's I think there's something going with the Attorney General now with both of them. Yeah, with the harvesting votes. But basically, a fire district is like this little town within a town that doesn't have any firefighting capabilities, and they buy land, they pool land together like a hedge fund, and block access everywhere they go. And a lot of times they'll buy land, all right, and the same fire district will also be a conservation, and they'll call it a conservation land, get it off their books to be tax-free, and really is they've just written off their backyards as a private resource. So basically, it's like if I took my yard where I had woods I didn't want to develop, and I donated it, but kept it private at the same exact time, and took it off the tax rolls. And you're seeing that they do that right around any access point. So there's definitely been some funny business with the fire districts, some conflicts of interest where you have a town solicitor advising town councils in Westerly while also representing a fire district, particularly on the subject of rights of ways and access points. That's what we found. This is the type of stuff that holds up rights of ways and coastal access. These little funny fire districts, little NOAA guide, Rhode Island things, town solicitors, misinformation in front of town councils, real estate agents on town councils. Not all real estate agents, obviously. When you really start diving into it, that's what you see a lot of.
This is such an important issue. It's something that's so near and dear to my heart, and I think so many Rhode Islanders as well. But I bet that there's a lot of people that don't realize the extent to which this has been perpetuated and the baked into the cake sort of discrimination and obliviousness and arrogance that goes with it. So what's next for you? I want to keep on this all year. I want to do something for the TV show. I think that this is a major topic that we need to take to the surface level. Yeah. But for you right now, you said February, there's bills that are going to be introduced. Where do you go from here?
Well, right now, we're trying to, draft up a proposal that basically summarizes a lot of the things we talked about in this show, trying to get it into state reps' hands, get it out to the mass public, let them take a look, let them look at what's going on at CRMC, have them take a look at the fire districts, put in some safeguards to, protect coastal access, get everybody involved. Those are the things we're working on. And this another point that I didn't bring up and I want to, all right? And basically we need a coastal access public infrastructure initiative. So, I'm 40 years old. When I was a kid, most of those beach houses were shacks. They were meant to be washed away. They were built by World War II. Our grandparents, they did get washed away multiple times.
Yep.
And now we have these giant houses that are, skyscrapers on the water where they've taken up, the whole footprint of the land. We've packed them in there, right? But at the same time, we didn't fix parking. We didn't widen our roads. We didn't upgrade our boat ramps. So we've jammed this giant new population into this small area without fixing the public infrastructure around it. This is in particular South County, from what I can see where I live, but I'm sure it's happening in Westerly. I'm sure it's happening on every coastal town in America. So what we really need to do is have some kind of coastal access public infrastructure and look at everything, improve it. Improve our parking lots, improve our roads, improve everything that goes along with, tourism and the community that goes with it. If we don't, we're going to have chaos. We're going to have more people coming here because we live between New York City and Boston. You got the center of capitalism for America and the center of education for America. And what is Rhode Island's comparative resource? Beaches, clam cakes, tourism, vacation. All right. If we don't build the infrastructure for those people coming, they're still going to come, but you're going to have all these other problems that go with it, including traffic, litter, congestion, people fighting over the beaches. It's something that we need to address on a statewide level. And I hope state reps are paying attention because you don't just have to live near the coast to be concerned about this. It affects everybody, whether you go to the beach 4 times a year or you live by the beach and you go 3 times a week.
What a major issue. Thanks for hopping on, man. Let's keep this, keep this alive. Like I said, I'll reach out. We'll do a TV piece. If you're interested, we can break it down even more.
Anytime, anytime. There's a lot of good people out there trying to make change. It benefits everybody. It's really for future generations. And, there's a lot of right of ways. There's a lot of, there's even a cliff walk that's deeded on Ocean Road in Narragansett, which I would love to see restored. There's a lot of little things that we've lost that are still considered public that, if we really fight for it, we can get it fixed.
This is the Bartholomew Town Podcast.
At HealthSource RI for Employers, we provide access to health insurance to more than 1,100 local businesses and nonprofits, and 96% of them renew through us every year. Maybe it's our choice of 19 different health plans, our 10 years of customizing solutions, or our one local team of dedicated experts helping employers find quality health insurance. See how our numbers stack up for you. Learn more at healthsourceri.com/employers.